In the cold expanse of deep space, an Andorian scout ship silently glided through the darkness, its crew unaware that they were on the cusp of discovering a world that would change the galaxy forever. Earth, the small blue planet nestled within the solar system, had remained unnoticed by the galactic powers for centuries despite its rapid advancements in technology. The Andorian Empire, whose fleet controlled vast sections of space, had seen countless worlds rise and fall, but none had posed any real threat, until now the discovery began innocently enough as part of a routine deep space survey. A team of Andorian explorers were tasked with mapping new star systems and cataloging potential threats and resources. The data they sent back to the Empire was unremarkable until one report caught the attention of High Command. Something was off about this particular solar system. Their sensors picked up an anomaly, a faint signal coming from the third planet from the star, a signal that was too structured to be naturally occurring, but too weak to be of any major concern. The Andorians had made contact with numerous primitive species before, and so they set course toward the distant planet, curious yet skeptical. As their ships neared the edge of the solar system, Commander Zethar stood at the helm of the flagship. Scorath, his mind focused on the task at hand. Despite his experience, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A strange energy radiated from the system, like a silent warning, almost as if the universe itself was reluctant to reveal its secrets. Yet he pushed the thought aside. Earth wasn't the first world to be discovered by an Andorian ship, and it likely wouldn't be the last. The ship entered the solar system, with precise calculations moving toward Earth's orbit, all systems functioning perfectly. The crew was ready for what they believed would be a typical first contact mission. But as they came closer to Earth, the anomaly became stronger, not in a way that could be tracked, but in a way that felt almost intentional. Commander Zethar turned to his first officer, Commander Ryan, with a raised brow. Something was off, and they both knew it. Zethar issued an order for the fleet to halt their advance, a decision that would prove to be their first mistake. The fleet lingered in the outer reaches of Earth's atmosphere, observing silently from the shadows of the cosmos as the humans went about their lives, oblivious to the threat looming above them. In the cities across Earth, governments and military powers went about their daily business, unaware of the alien presence within their skies. Satellites in orbit detected the Andorian fleet, but due to Earth's relative technological limitations, no one understood the true scope of the situation. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, President Jack Ryan was briefed by his most trusted advisors about an unknown fleet entering the solar system. The reports seemed improbable at first, a hoax perhaps, but as communications from military satellites became more frequent and urgent, the truth began to settle in. Despite their advanced weaponry and intelligence capabilities, humanity was unprepared for what was coming. The world's governments scrambled to issue statements to the public, while secretly preparing their military forces. The skies above Earth were becoming more crowded, and the faint light from Andorian ships growing larger by the day. The fate of humanity rested in the hands of a few leaders who had no idea what was coming until it was too late. The Andorian fleet, hidden just beyond the edge of Earth's atmosphere, hovered in silence, their ships powerful yet inscrutable in the black void. Commander Zethar, now on high alert, observed the blue planet below with a cold, calculating gaze. He had never felt the weight of uncertainty like this before. His crew remained tense, preparing for the unknown. They had encountered primitive species before, but none had sent a signal as strong or as purposeful as the one emanating from Earth. The fleet waited for the command to proceed. Zethar issued the order. "Prepare to make contact," he said, his voice steady, but a sliver of doubt lingered in his mind. This mission, on paper, was simple: confirm Earth's status, gauge the threat, and deliver the Empire's message of peace or dominance, depending on how the humans responded. But as the Andorians descended toward Earth, something in the air changed. The tension among the crew was palpable, each member feeling the odd weight of the situation. Back on Earth, the urgency of the situation was becoming undeniable. The first confirmed reports from military satellites about the fleet's presence sent shockwaves through the global network. In the heart of Washington, D.C., President Jack Ryan stood at the forefront of a decision that would determine the survival of humanity. His advisors clustered around him, urgently relaying information as images of the Andorian ships filled the screens. Despite his years in power, Ryan had never faced an event like this. The world had never been this vulnerable. "What do we know about them?" President Ryan asked, trying to maintain his composure in the face of impending catastrophe. "They're not broadcasting any aggressive intentions, sir," General Marcus Vale replied, his face grim. "But they're not giving us much either. We've made several attempts to reach out, but no response." Ryan's brow furrowed. "We can't wait any longer. Reach out again. I want to know what they want, and why they're here." Meanwhile, Dr. Emily Harper, a renowned astrophysicist who had dedicated her career to understanding extraterrestrial life, was working frantically in a secure lab at the Pentagon. The information on the fleet was sparse, but one thing was certain. The technology behind the ships was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. She had spent the better part of her life searching for evidence of intelligent life beyond Earth, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Her team worked to establish a communication channel, pulling from every resource they had at their disposal. Come on," she muttered under her breath, her fingers flying across the keyboard as the encrypted channels blinked on screen. The room fell silent as the first transmission from the Andorian fleet came through. The message was crisp and formal, but the tone was unmistakably unsettling. Zethar's voice echoed in the Pentagon's secure communications room. "This is Commander Zethar of the Andorian Empire. We are here to issue a warning. Earth is in grave danger. Prepare to evacuate your planet or face annihilation." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving only static in its wake. A shocked silence settled over the room as the full weight of Zethar's message hit everyone present. Ryan stood still for a moment, processing the words that had just been delivered. "Annihilation," he whispered. "Why? What do they want with us?" Dr. Harper looked to the screens, then at the president. "They may not want anything from us, but they might know something we don't. The danger they speak of could be real." "Prepare a diplomatic envoy," Ryan ordered firmly, though he knew the odds were slim. "We need to talk to them, understand what's happening. We need to figure out how to respond." The world held its breath as humanity's first contact with the Andorians unfolded, uncertain of what this encounter would mean for their future. No one could yet understand the scope of the Empire's warning, or what was truly at stake. The race against time had begun. The diplomatic envoy to the Andorian fleet was a risky gamble, one that could either open the door to a peaceful resolution or seal humanity's fate. As the chosen representative, Dr. Emily Harper, alongside a small team of negotiators, boarded one of Earth's top military vessels, the Valiant, ready to face the unknown. The pressure was overwhelming. Every decision made from this point onward could alter the course of history. As the Valiant moved toward the Andorian flagship, Dr. Harper's mind raced. What could they possibly offer? Peace seemed too idealistic in the face of such power. Commander Zethar watched from his command center as Earth's ship approached, his cold eyes betraying nothing of his thoughts. He had given no direct orders for combat, but the presence of the humans made him wary. He had seen countless species before, many offering negotiations that ultimately fell apart. Humanity, however, had an air of desperation about them, one that Zethar found intriguing. Dr. Harper's team stood ready in the conference room of the Valiant. The tension was unbearable as the ship neared the Andorian flagship. She could sense the unease in the eyes of her fellow diplomats. If this went poorly, if even a single misstep occurred, Earth could lose more than just its chance at survival. It could lose the trust of its people. As the Valiant docked with the Andorian flagship, the crew prepared for the meeting. A strange silence filled the air. The humans were escorted through the sleek, metallic halls of the Andorian ship, the walls glowing faintly with blue energy. Every step they took seemed to echo, amplifying the growing tension. When they finally reached the command room, Commander Zethar stood at the head of the table, His expression was unreadable, but there was a clear authority in his presence. Dr. Harper, with her calm demeanor, stepped forward. "We come in peace," she said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "We need to understand what's happening. Why are you here? What is this danger you speak of?" Zethar studied her carefully before responding. His voice was even, but there was an undeniable weight behind it. "I will speak plainly. Earth is not prepared for what is coming. The weapon that threatens your world is unlike anything you can fathom. It is an ancient construct, a force capable of obliterating entire star systems. Your planet is in its direct path." A chill ran through the room. Dr. Harper exchanged looks with the others. "A weapon? But why is it targeting Earth?" Zethar paused, allowing the question to hang in the air. He looked at each of them with a gaze that seemed to see right through them. It was built long ago, long before the Andorian Empire even existed. It was created by a now extinct race known as the Varner, a species that sought to control the galaxy through fear. The weapon, when activated, will erase any world that stands in its path. Earth is its next target. "Why warn us then?" one of the human diplomats asked, his voice shaking. "If you have the power to stop this, why not just do it?" Zethar's eyes narrowed, his voice heavy with something that sounded like regret. "Because we do not have the power to stop it. The weapon is not in our control. It was designed to be activated by an ancient network, and that network has already begun its countdown. We cannot deactivate it. We cannot fight it. We can only offer you one chance: escape." The words hit like a physical blow. Dr. Harper's mind raced as she processed this new information. The Varner had built the weapon centuries ago, and now a race long gone had set humanity's doom in motion. The Andorians had no power to stop it, and Earth's defenses were too weak to stand a chance against such a force. Zethar's expression softened for a brief moment. "Your people must leave Earth. If you stay, you will perish. The weapon will destroy everything you know. But there is another world far from here, a place where the weapon's reach does not extend. If you can evacuate quickly, you may survive." Dr. Harper's thoughts were spinning. Earth wasn't ready to leave. Not like this. Yet the alternative was worse. She took a deep breath, meeting Zethar's gaze. "And if we refuse?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Zethar's eyes darkened. "Then you will face the end of your civilization. The weapon will arrive within days. Time is running out." The room fell silent, the gravity of Zethar's words sinking in. Earth's future now hung in the balance, and the decision that would follow would shape the destiny of an entire species. The meeting with Commander Zethar left a lingering sense of dread in the air. Dr. Emily Harper returned to Earth with the Andorian warning ringing in her ears. The urgency of the situation was clear, but the consequences of their next steps seemed impossible to fully grasp. As the Andorian fleet maintained its position in orbit, humanity was left to wrestle with the truth. Their planet was about to be destroyed, and no one had the means to stop it. Back on Earth, the world's governments were in chaos. President Jack Ryan held an emergency summit with global leaders in an attempt to devise a plan. Tension ran high as military officials argued over the best course of action. Some believed humanity's only hope lay in fleeing the planet, while others, led by General Marcus Vale, refused to consider surrendering Earth without a fight. "We cannot just abandon our world," General Vale argued, his voice rising. "We've fought for centuries to get here, and we're not going to let some alien empire dictate our future." "But the Andorians have been clear," Dr. Harper interjected, her voice shaking despite her best efforts to remain composed. "They can't stop the weapon. No one can. Our best chance for survival is to evacuate. We can't fight something we don't understand." President Ryan leaned forward, his face hardening with resolve. "We will not let fear drive our decisions, but we also can't afford to waste time. General, I need you to prepare for the possibility of evacuation, but I also want every resource we have aimed at preparing for defense. If there's any chance we can fight back, we need to explore it. The days that followed were a blur of activity. While evacuation plans were put in motion, the global military forces scrambled to study every piece of information they could gather on the weapon that threatened Earth. Satellites were deployed, scientists worked around the clock, and billions of people began to prepare for the unthinkable. However, no matter how much they tried to rally against it, the reality of the situation became clear. Earth's defenses were no match for the Andorian fleet, let alone the weapon itself. Dr. Harper worked tirelessly with a team of scientists to decode the schematics that Zethar had given them, but the complexities of the weapon only deepened the sense of helplessness. Even with all of Earth's advancements, they were still vastly outmatched. The Andorians, with their superior technology, could disable any defense systems humanity attempted to deploy. By the time the first waves of the weapon's destructive force arrived at Earth's atmosphere, humanity's defenses were already crumbling. The planet's last line of defense, a series of high-tech shields designed to ward off space-based threats, flickered and failed in the face of the Andorian technology. In mere hours, entire satellite networks were destroyed, communication lines were severed, and humanity's ability to fight back was severely compromised. The weapon was not even visible yet, but its presence was felt as the ground trembled, the sky darkened, and strange energy pulses began to warp Earth's magnetic fields. At the Pentagon, President Ryan watched helplessly as the data continued to pour in. It was happening faster than anyone had predicted. "It's already started," Dr. Harper whispered, her voice cracking with disbelief. "The weapon, it's active, and it's too late for us to stop it." General Vale slammed his fist on the table, frustration and anger boiling over. "There has to be something we can do. We can't just give up." "There's nothing left to do," Dr. Harper replied, her voice distant. "We've already lost the fight. Our only hope is to leave, to get as many people off this planet as possible." With heavy hearts, the world's leaders agreed that evacuation was the only viable option. The operation would be colossal, but there was no other choice. Thousands of ships were prepared, ready to carry as many people as they could to safety. Yet, for every person who managed to board an escape ship, countless others would be left behind, caught in the wake of the weapon's arrival. As Earth's final countdown began, the Andorian fleet positioned itself in the skies above, an indifferent witness to the unfolding tragedy. The only thing left was the decision of who would escape and who would be left to face the end. And even as humanity prepared to flee, one burning question remained: where could they possibly go? Would there be a place where they could start over, or would they find only more destruction waiting for them? The answers were unknown, and the stakes had never been higher. As the evacuation efforts intensified, the world became more divided than ever. Earth's people, once united in their shared humanity, now found themselves at odds over how to face the impending doom. President Jack Ryan's leadership was being tested as never before, as factions emerged within the government, the military, and the global population. The question of whether to flee or to stay and fight consumed every discussion, every decision, every moment. General Marcus Vale, a seasoned military leader, was resolute. "We cannot let fear dictate our fate," he insisted in closed-door meetings with President Ryan and key military officials. "This is our home, and we must fight for it, even if the odds are against us." But Dr. Emily Harper, who had become the voice of reason in this crisis, was equally firm in her stance. "We've lost the capability to stop the weapon. Our military has no chance against the Andorian fleet. The only way to ensure our survival is to evacuate as much of humanity as we can. We've seen their power. This isn't about pride. It's about saving lives." A deep tension hung in the air as both sides presented their arguments. The evacuation ships were being prepared, and every nation was doing their part to gather resources and transport as many citizens as possible to safety. Yet, despite this, there were those who believed that to abandon Earth was to give up on their future, on everything they had fought for. In underground bunkers, in military command centers, and in homes across the planet, Citizens debated furiously. Some believed that Earth's legacy was worth fighting for, even if it meant their destruction. Others, like Commander Rachel Cross, a decorated officer who had seen the horrors of war firsthand, believed that survival had to come first. "We can't abandon everything we've built. We can't let them win," shouted a member of the Earth Defense Coalition, a global organization formed to combat any alien threat. "This is our planet. If we stand down now, we're telling the galaxy that we are weak, that we are not capable of defending ourselves." Commander Cross, leading a resistance faction in the military, was especially vocal in the fight to stay and resist. "If we surrender, we might as well be giving up on our children's future," she declared. "The Andorians are not going to save us. We have to fight back, even if it costs us everything. If we go down as warriors, not cowards." But for every soldier and resistance fighter who was willing to lay down their life for Earth, there was another voice urging for caution, for pragmatism. Dr. Harper, in meetings with scientists and engineers, continued to hammer home the point that the weapon was not something they could defeat with military might. "We cannot afford to waste precious time fighting an enemy that has already won," she said, her voice exhausted yet resolute. "We need to preserve what we can, and we need to do it now. There's no room for pride here, only survival." The debate reached a boiling point when a leaked military document, showing the full scale of the weapon's power, made its way into the public eye. The document described in chilling detail how the Varner weapon would cause a chain reaction that would rip apart Earth's core, causing an extinction-level event in mere days. Panic spread faster than wildfire as the world came to grips with the reality of their situation. People took to the streets, some demanding that they fight, others begging for the evacuation to start immediately. The global divide seemed insurmountable. For President Ryan, the decision weighed heavily. The military's power, once a symbol of Earth's strength, was now a reminder of their impotence in the face of this alien threat. As the world teetered on the edge of collapse, Ryan made the ultimate decision. The evacuation would continue, but the military would prepare for a final stand, just in case. "We will not give up," Ryan declared in a worldwide address, his voice steady but filled with determination. "But we will not waste lives in a fight we cannot win. We will survive. We will find a way to fight another day, even if that means leaving our home behind." As the evacuation ships launched into the sky, humanity's great divide had never been more evident. The future of Earth now rested in the hands of those who had managed to escape, and those who had chosen to stay, ready to face whatever came next. As the evacuation continued, Earth's cities were swept up in chaos and uncertainty. Millions of people lined up at launch sites, desperate to board the ships that would carry them away from the only home they had ever known. But for many, the realization was sinking in. They weren't just leaving their planet behind. They were leaving behind everything that made them human. History, culture, families, memories, gone in an instant. Even those who had managed to secure a spot on the evacuation ships couldn't escape the gnawing feeling that this would be the last time they would ever see Earth, the last time they would ever feel the warmth of the sun on their skin. For President Ryan, the weight of his decision was crushing. Despite the logistical challenges and emotional turmoil, the evacuation was moving forward, but it was far from smooth. The divide between those who wanted to stay and fight and those who were ready to flee continued to escalate. Riots broke out in the streets of major cities as factions clashed over the future of the planet. The military was stretched thin, trying to maintain order, while Dr. Emily Harper and the scientific community worked tirelessly to monitor the progress of the Varner weapon. "Every minute counts," Dr. Harper said to her team, her voice strained. "We need to find any way we can to slow it down, to buy us some more time. If we can't stop it, maybe we can at least delay it long enough for the evacuation to be completed." But the weapon, an ancient relic of the Varner, was unstoppable. Every attempt to understand its complex mechanisms only revealed more devastating truths. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a system. a network that had been dormant for eons, waiting for the right moment to activate. And that moment had come. Meanwhile, the Andorian fleet watched from orbit, their presence an ever-looming reminder of the cold truth: Earth's time was running out. Commander Zethar, despite his warnings, knew that the evacuation was a temporary solution. He had done what he could to warn humanity, but the Empire's involvement was limited. They had no power to stop the weapon, no ability to alter its course. Their mission was not to destroy Earth, but to offer a final warning. In a way, they had given humanity a chance. Now it was up to the humans to decide how they would respond to it. For those still fighting to save Earth, the weight of their decision became harder to bear with every passing hour. General Marcus Vale had gathered his forces for a last-ditch effort, a final stand against the Andorian fleet. He believed that Earth's legacy, its honor, deserved one last act of defiance. "We've got one shot at this," he told his officers. "We might be outgunned, outmatched, but we're not going down without a fight. If they want to destroy Earth, they'll have to do it over our dead bodies." As Vale prepared his forces for the inevitable confrontation, tensions were running high within the military ranks. Soldiers who had once proudly donned their uniforms now questioned the value of their service. Was it worth staying behind to defend a dying planet? Or was the real fight one of survival, not resistance? But in the final moments before the confrontation, as the Andorian ships hovered above Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. A message came through, not from the Andorians, but from a small, unmarked ship in deep space. It was a message from the last remaining Varner survivors, the creators of the weapon that threatened Earth. "We know the end is near," the message began. "We are the last of the Varner. The weapon we built cannot be stopped, but it can be reprogrammed. There is a way to disable it, but it requires a sacrifice." The message was brief and fragmented, and the location of the Varner survivors was unclear. But the implications were enormous. If humanity could somehow find the Varner and unlock the means to disable the weapon, there might still be a chance. But with the weapon already in motion and time rapidly running out, the odds of success seemed slim. As the countdown to the weapon's arrival continued, Earth's last hope now lay in a race against time, a desperate search for the key to survival, and for the people who might hold the answers. Time was slipping through Earth's fingers as the evacuation ships continued to leave, carrying the last remnants of humanity off the dying planet. President Ryan and his team were left to weigh the final option. The mysterious message from the Varner survivors. The weapon was no longer a distant threat. It was only days away from striking. And now, there was a glimmer of hope. But would the human race be able to seize that hope in time? Dr. Emily Harper, now working with a crack team of scientists, engineers, and military personnel, was tasked with decrypting the Varner's message. The message had been intercepted on a deep space frequency, one so old and obscure that it had taken hours just to stabilize it. As the final fragments of the transmission came into focus, the pieces began to fit together, revealing something even more baffling than before. "The weapon can be disabled," Dr. Harper said, her voice barely above a whisper as she read the decrypted data. "But it's in a location we can't even reach with our current technology. It's somewhere in the outer edges of the galaxy, far beyond the reach of any human vessel." President Ryan stood before a large holographic map of the galaxy, his mind racing. The clock was ticking. Can we get there? Can we send a team to find it? "Not in time," Dr. Harper replied, shaking her head. "Even if we launch a mission immediately, the Varner weapon is already on its way. It will reach Earth long before we can make any progress." It seemed as though humanity's fate had already been sealed, yet one final, desperate plan began to take shape. The Varner had mentioned a sacrifice needed to disable the weapon, but it was unclear what that meant. The question gnawed everyone in the room. Who would be willing to make such a sacrifice? And what exactly would they be giving up? Meanwhile, General Marcus Vale, who had reluctantly stepped back from his planned resistance efforts, was no longer focused on defending Earth. With the weapon's arrival imminent, he began working with the remaining military forces to assemble a team of highly skilled soldiers and scientists who could execute the last-ditch mission. The goal was no longer to fight the Andorians or to hold the line against an overwhelming force. It was about finding a way to survive. "We have to find a way to get to the Varner," General Vale declared to his team. "It's humanity's last shot. If we can disable that weapon, we stand a chance. Otherwise, we're finished." His team, a mix of veterans and experts in various fields, had been handpicked for their ability to carry out impossible missions. Yet even they were shaken by the enormity of the task ahead. The Varner survivors could be anywhere, and the unknown sacrifice required to disable the weapon made the mission even more daunting. There was no guarantee of success. In the meantime, Earth's military scrambled to prepare an emergency fleet, one that could transport the team to the edges of the galaxy if the mission was viable. But resources were stretched thin, and most of the remaining ships were already committed to evacuation. Still, the determination of those who had stayed behind was unwavering. The future of humanity rested on the shoulders of those who had volunteered for this final desperate mission. "I won't ask any of you to do this unless you're ready to give everything," General Vale said as he addressed his team, his voice heavy with the weight of his words. "We're up against something none of us fully understand. But if we can find the Varner, we can stop this. We have no other option." The team members nodded, some with fear, others with grim resolve. Each of them understood what was at stake. Everything they knew, everything they loved, was on the line. And with each passing hour, the weapon drew closer. As the search for the Varner survivors began, Earth's last hope rested in the hands of those willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. But as the countdown continued, one question echoed through their minds. Would the sacrifice be enough to stop a force that could destroy an entire planet? And if so, who would pay that price? The stars outside Earth's atmosphere shimmered coldly, as if mocking the chaos unfolding below. Humanity's fate now hung by a thread. The weapon, the unstoppable force that had been brought to life by the Varner, was moments away from completing its destructive path. As the evacuation efforts continued and the last ships left Earth's orbit, General Marcus Vale and his team embarked on a desperate mission, one that would either save or doom them all. In the heart of the military command center, President Ryan stood alone, gazing at the holographic display of Earth below. The once vibrant blue planet now seemed like a distant memory, a world soon to be swallowed by the forces they could not fight. His mind raced with what-ifs, the images of those he failed to save flashing in his mind. But there was still hope. The mission wasn't over. At the very edges of the galaxy, the team led by General Vale raced against time. Their destination was the last known location of the Varner survivors, a hidden outpost tucked away in a distant star system. The ship they traveled in, a hastily modified military vessel, had been fitted with the best technology humanity had left. But no one expected them to survive the journey intact. Every moment spent in hyperspace brought them closer to an uncertain fate, each pulse of the engines a heartbeat that counted down to Earth's destruction. Dr. Emily Harper worked around the clock to decipher the final pieces of the Varner message. "The weapon. It's not just physical," she said, looking up from her screen, eyes wide with realization. "It's connected to a system of energy nodes scattered across the galaxy. We need to find the central hub, disable it, and sever the connection. That's the only way to stop the weapon from triggering." But the path was fraught with peril. The weapon's pulse was already affecting space-time itself, distorting the fabric of reality as it approached Earth. Ships, both human and alien, that ventured too close were pulled into its wake, their energy systems disrupted. The team had no choice but to proceed blindly, hoping they would reach the Varner survivors in time. As they neared the location of the outpost, they encountered something unexpected. The Varner survivors had been waiting for them. A vast space station, orbiting a gas giant, appeared on their scanners. Its design was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. alien, yet eerily familiar, as if it had been built with the knowledge of the weapon's devastating potential. General Vale led his team into the station, weapons at the ready. They knew the risks, but there was no turning back now. Every footstep felt like a moment closer to the ultimate test of their resolve. The station was dark, eerily silent, and as they moved deeper into its core, they encountered the last of the Varner. A small group, pale and gaunt, living in the shadows of their own creation. They had become mere ghosts of the beings they once were, haunted by the weapon they had built. The leader of the Varner survivors, a woman named Althera, greeted them solemnly. "You came for the weapon," she said, her voice filled with regret. "But you must understand, no one can control it. Not even us. The sacrifice required to stop it is not something you are prepared for." General Vale stood firm. "Tell us what we need to do. We can stop it, no matter the cost." Althera nodded, her face drawn with sorrow. "You must take the final step. The weapon is a link to our people's past, a piece of our civilization's soul. To sever the connection, one of you must become the anchor. Your energy, your life force, must merge with the weapon. And in doing so, you will destroy it, but you will also destroy yourself." Silence fell over the group. General Vale's heart pounded in his chest, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. There was no hesitation. "I'll do it." The team tried to protest, but Vale's decision was unwavering. He knew what had to be done. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was humanity's last hope. Without another word, he stepped toward the energy chamber at the heart of the station. The device before him hummed with a terrible power, its energy field pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Dr. Harper's voice crackled through his comms. "General, please, there must be another way." Vale's response was quiet, his resolve steely. "This is the only way." With one final, piercing glance at the team, he entered the chamber. The door sealed behind him, and the system powered up, pulling Vale into its core. The fusion of his life force with the weapon was instantaneous, the energy surging through him like fire. Pain, destruction, and then nothing. The station went dark. The weapon's pulse stopped, the energy nodes across the galaxy flickering out. The world, as it had been, ceased to exist in the way it once did. Earth was saved, but at an unimaginable cost. As General Vale's team looked up at the stars, the silence of space was broken only by their quiet breaths. The weapon had been destroyed, but humanity had lost one of its own. General Marcus Vale's sacrifice would be remembered forever, a hero's legacy etched into the very fabric of the universe. And though Earth had been spared, the future was uncertain. As the survivors of this conflict embarked on the next chapter of their journey, one shaped by the ultimate cost of survival.